Hello everyone, welcome to the part 2 of making the cap corset kente top. If you are here, then it means you've already watched the part 1. If you haven't, kindly go back to my channel and then make sure to watch the drafting process. I'll also go ahead and leave the link in my description box so it's easier for you to find it. What I'm doing now is I'm just joining all the channels together to form my boning channels. Okay, so I'm going to be joining all the pieces together for the kente. I'll do the same thing for the lining and I'll do the same thing for the interface as well. So if you watch what I'm doing, you're going to understand it, like I always say. After I'm done joining the kente, I'm going ahead to join the lining as well, like I said before. So I'll join all the channels together as well for the lining piece before I move on to the interface. So as you can see, I'm done joining the pieces together. Next is to join my interface as well, and the type of interface I'm using is called the ShapeFlex interface. I doubt the market people would know this name, but they call it Corset interface, Corset stiff or Corset interface. That's if you're in Ghana. You can get this interface on Instagram from Sogazem Ghana, but you can also get it in Accra. Behind the China house, I think there's a man there called Alaji. He sells interface and sports materials. So if you're in Ghana, you're in Accra, and you know Accra, Mokola, you know China house, I'm sure you should be able to find your way to that place. You just say you want corset interface and then they are going to get it for you. But equally, you can also use any type of interface you want. You can use the fabric type. Okay, it should be woven and fusible. I hope this helps. Yeah, so after I'm done, what I'm doing next is I'm trying to align the seams together so they face each other, if that makes sense. So this is going to allow me properly stitch my boning channels without any bulk. Okay, so I'm ensuring that the seam allowances are staying flat. Okay, so the right side of the interface is the part that has the fusible thing, like the part that is fusible, the part that has the glue-like surface. Okay, that's the right side of the interface. Okay, so that side is going to be facing the wrong side of the kente. Okay, so if you watch what I'm doing, you're going to see that I pin them together in a way that the right side of the interface is facing the wrong side of the kente. Yeah, so now what I'll be doing is I'll be making a stitch in a ditch. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to be stitching in between my seam, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to be stitching inside the seam. Okay, so that this holds both the kente and then the interface together before I start making my bone channels. So I zoomed in a little bit for you to see what I meant. So I'm stitching inside the seam. Okay, if you don't understand, maybe you can just Google what a stitch in a ditch means. Okay, I'm sure Google will give you a better understanding, but this is what it literally means. So if you watch what I'm doing, you get it. Okay, I'm just stitching in between my seam line. Okay, so after I'm done, I'll just go ahead and start making my boning channels, and I have changed my foot to an invisible zipper foot. Okay, this will enable me make more accurate lines. So when stitching your channels, you have to ensure that your channel is slightly bigger than your bone, else your bone is not going to fit. You're going to find it difficult inserting the bone. Okay, so you always ensure the channel is slightly, not too big. If it's also bigger than the bone, it may cause problems. The bone is not going to sit right inside the dress or the top. So here what I'm doing is I'm just making some extra lines to make sure the channels that I'll be creating will be in a straight line. Okay, because making this kind of channels can be very tricky at times if you don't make guidelines to follow. By the time you are done, your stitches may be crooked. Okay, maybe crooked or slanting towards one side and doesn't give a neat finishing look. So I'm using this vanishing ink, vanishing pen to create my guidelines so I can make my boning channels. We're going to be creating the boning channels on the whole top. Okay, this part is a bit tedious, but trust me, with perseverance you can achieve whatever you want to. Okay, so you just need a little patience and some time, and you're going to be done in the next 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to be moving on to our cap since we are done stitching the channels on the top. So with your notches, this should be an easy task. We're just joining the center front to the side front part of the cap. So I have 12 pieces of the cap pattern, 4 of which is the main kente fabric, and then I have 8 pieces which is the lining fabric. So you're going to understand why I have these pieces in a short while. After you're done stitching all the pieces together, you should have about 3 pairs of cups. Okay, then you're going to take this to your ironing board or ironing table, and you're going to press this down so that your seams are nicely open and flat. Okay, pressing is very important in garment making, so you shouldn't take that for granted. The next thing to do after ironing is to create your boning channels for your caging. Okay, so I'm doing that on the lining part of the cup. You're going to be doing the same thing for the other cup as well. So here is a quick one. I'm just trying to show you what it's going to look like after I'm done. Okay, so this is how neat it's going to look. So I'll just go ahead to start stitching my bone to create the cage, and there's a simple technique that I learned because I realized that sometimes after you are done stitching the cup, it ends up being flat. Okay, so it's in order to avoid this, after stitching on the seam line of the cup, you go ahead and then stitch another bone across it. Okay, so you're going to stitch one vertical line and then one horizontal line crossing each other. Okay, so if you can see what I'm doing, this is what it should look like after you are done. And trust me, when you use this process, your cup is never going to be flat. Okay, it's just going to maintain a very steady structure and a curvaceous structure. Yes. After you're done with the caging, you should have something looking exactly like this. What I'll be doing is to sandwich the cup with the cage in between the main fabric and then the lining. Okay, because I want to have a seamless finishing. The next thing I'll be doing is to treat the main kente cup and then the cup with the cage art as one. Okay, so as you can see, I just pinned them together and now I'm going to be treating it as one cup. Okay. So here I'm just trying to quickly check what my cup is going to look inside after I join it to the main top. Okay, and this is what it's going to look like. We just want to achieve a very nice and neat seamless finishing. Okay. The next thing I'll be doing is to join the cups to the lining and then the one to the main fabric. Okay, so you can go ahead and then pin to ensure that everything meets nice and neat. Okay, sometimes if you're not careful, when you don't take the measurements right, when you don't cut properly, when you don't join properly, by the time you are done, you realize that the cup is either smaller than the space or the space is either smaller than the cup. I hope that makes sense. So in order for you to ensure none of this problem happens. You have to pin it, then you sew while taking off the pins. After joining the cups of the lining, I'm going to do the same thing to the main fashion fabric as well. One thing to note is to always fix your cap before you start inserting your bone. So if you can see, I'd already started inserting my bone. Then I remember that I'll be finding it difficult to stitch my cap when the time comes. So I had to stop inserting the bone. So I finished fixing the cap. Then I can go ahead and then insert the bone later on. Okay, when you do it this way, you're going to find it easier. Okay. Now that I'm done fixing my cap, I can go ahead and then insert my bone. So what you're going to do when inserting the bone is you're going to measure the length of the bone and then you decrease it by 1 inch. Okay, this will enable you stitch or hem the bottom part of your top. Okay. I'm also ensuring that my bone isn't pointy on the edges, so I'm doing this by cutting off the pointy part. So another alternative is to use a lighter fire to burn the edge, or you can file the edge. If you don't do that, your bone is going to poke through the dress and it's going to come out, or it can even poke your client or poke you yourself if you're wearing it, and it makes it so uncomfortable. So in my first corset video that I posted, lots of people were asking if I was boning the entire channels that I created. The answer is yes. So you're going to be fixing your bone in all the individual channels that you created. Okay, it's very tedious. That's why corset dresses like this are pricey. Okay, so you make sure you are charging the right amount for the style, okay, because it's tedious and a lot of work is involved. This is what mine came up looking like after I was done inserting all the bone. It came out looking nice and perfect, like everything looking good just as I wanted. Next thing I'll be doing is to insert my yoke. I've gone ahead to stitch the shoulder part of the yoke already. I cut two pieces to make it more durable because, like we all know, this particular fabric is very fragile. It's very delicate. If you don't take very good care of it, if you don't handle it properly, it's just going to get spoiled even before getting to the client. Okay, so you can double it to make it more stronger, and that is what I did. Using half inch or quarter inch allowance, what I'll be doing is to stitch the neckline of the yoke together. Okay, since there are two of them, I'm going to treat one as the front fabric and I'm going to treat one as the lining. So after stitching it together, I'm going to trim off the excess and I'll flip it over. Like I said, I'll be treating one as the lining and then one as the main, front of the fabric. I learned this method from Precious Apparel and I think it's a very good technique. So what I'm doing is I'm just making an understitch to make one part of the fabric lay more flatter. Okay, if you try this method, I think you're going to see how nice and neat it's going to turn out. Next, I'll be putting loops at the back. Okay, I'll be putting the loops and then buttons. So that is what I'm going ahead to insert at the back part of the yoke. After I'm done inserting my loops, I went ahead to close all the openings at the back of my yoke, and what I'm doing next is to create a top stitch as well. Okay, so this gives the yoke a more firmer look, especially if you're going to be beading on top of it. Next, I'll be closing the opening around the arm as well. Okay, the drop shoulder has an opening, so I'll just go ahead and then close that opening and top stitch on that as well, because there's going to be a lot of beading on that part. This is what I have mine looking like after I was done. It's looking so nice, neat, and perfect, ready to be inserted or sandwiched in between the main fashion fabric and then the lining. I'm gonna head to do that off camera, and I'm gonna head as well to finish up the edges of the main kente. Like I joined it together with the lining. Okay, so I'll just be stitching my bone channel where I'll be inserting my eyelets. Okay, so I'll be doing that in a minute as well, and then our kente top is ready to be shipped out to my clients. Yeah. Normally, what I do when I realize my lining isn't sitting flat, I put hemming gum or hemming stiff inside and then I iron it. When you do it that way, your lining isn't going anywhere, it's just going to stay flat. Okay. Now that I'm done with everything, I'm just ensuring that the hem of both the lining and the main fashion fabric are lined together, and I'm going to be finishing the edge of this with a bias tape. Okay, so you can use an already made bias tape or you can create your own by using or by cutting the lining part of the fabric. Okay, and you're good to go. So that's what I did. I cut the lining, I created my own bias, and I used that to finish the edge or the hem of my top. So after I'm doing creating an understitch. So what an understitch does is to help or secure the lining part of whatever you are stitching to stay flat. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'll just give it a good press and then I'll hand stitch the inner part inside the top. Okay, so I just fold it nicely and then I'll hand stitch it, then I'm done. Since my client is an international client, we had to ship the dress to her for fitting, and then it was shipped back for our final finishing. But before that, there were some minor issues which I'm going to be sharing with you in a second. This is actually every designer's nightmare. Okay, after making the dress, you are expecting it to fit without any problem, but there was some minor issues which I had to correct. First off, the skin net was like 2 shades darker than her, so she had to get some from her end and then she shipped it to us, which I think was a brilliant idea. Secondly, I think she gained a little weight, so the top ended up being slightly smaller than her, especially at the back area. Okay, so since the net wasn't her shade, the entire top had to be dismantled. Okay, so I took off that part and then I also took off the center back of the top. Okay, so as you can see me doing, this is every designer's nightmare, trust me, but I had to do it because you gotta make your clients happy. Okay, you have to satisfy your clients all the time. I'm sharing this with you because I want you to understand that sometimes as a designer, it's okay for you to have major setbacks and challenges like this. It's not always perfect. Clients will not always get the perfect fit, and you need to make some of these corrections in order to achieve that perfection. Okay, so what I'm doing here now is I'm making the yoke a little bigger than it was, because if you could see from the picture that I showed, I think the back of the yoke was slightly smaller and it was showing a lot of flesh, and also the armhole was a little tighter, so I just extended it by just quarter inch. Okay, I'll also be changing the tool to what she brought. Okay, so as you can see, hers is slightly lighter than mine. After everything is being said and done, I went ahead to make the necessary corrections, which was changing the tool net and also extending the center back a little bit for more coverage. Okay, so after I was done, we went ahead to embellish the dress, and this is what it came out looking like. So I gave it to a professional beader to beat because I wasn't sure I was gonna have enough time to deliver. Yeah, so she did an amazing job. My bride was so happy when she saw the dress, and I was also very happy when it was delivered to me. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. You can enjoy the rest of it. This is the final look of the top. We ended up putting this little structure for a little drama. You know, we felt the top looked too simple or too plain. So just this thing did some minor changes to the top. And this is it, guys. I couldn't be any less prouder. I love the whole look, and my bride also loved it. This brings us to the end of today's episode. So I promised I was going to post this video last week, but I had to wait because the wedding was this week for me to have videos of the bride to add to my video. So here you go. This is my bride looking so stunning in her dress. So if you want to see more of this, you can visit my Instagram profile, Marilyn Bruce underscore, and you're going to see this and a lot more. Enjoy. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. If you got this far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You can leave a comment and I'll be there waiting to respond. Bye.